This is NBA Talk. I'm Erik Torenberg, joined by special guest Dan Barto, Head of Player Development at IMG Academy, along with my co-hosts Reuben Torenberg and Frack. Let's dive in.
Yo.
What's up, bro?
How we doing?
Doing
great, man.
Good.
You're looking good.
Thank you. Is it the face, the hat, or the shirt?
It's neither. It's the AirPods. I like those AirPods.
Okay. Thank you.
No, sure. Dude, why are the Blazers so terrible? Their front office, I feel like they got nothing.
I think they're going to be just fine. They got a bunch of good pieces. We got one more.
20 games, that's just fine.
Well, this season we're not going to be good. We're just, on the downswing. We were good for like 10 years straight.
What bet are we make? We got to make a bet today in this episode.
Not around the Blazers Knicks record.
What's up, Dan?
What's up, Dan?
What's up, strangers? It's been a minute. What's going on on the far coast out there?
Eric's just feeling great all the time now after this big time Knicks trade.
Let's get into it. Because Dan helped me. Dan gave me some NBA therapy when he said how it makes sense for the Knicks. When it first happened, I was distraught. I was like, "What? This is what we cashed in, all of our chips for." So hard to see Dante DiVincenzo go. I was excited about the Nova Knicks. I was excited about Randall's redemption. I was excited about the small ball lineup. And then when Dan told me about the spacing that Cat enables, I was like, wow, I'm a believer now. And then I got excited about Deuce McBride kind of, taking what Dante did last year. And, I think he will step into that role in the same way that Dante stepped into a quickly role. And I just love it for the Knicks. I'm not yet as sure. You said it's a win-win for the T-Wolves too. I don't know if they'll do better than they did last year, though I love them getting Dante. I think Randall, I know it helps them. They were in financial jail and they needed to do something. And in the same way, Knicks were maybe going to let Randall walk if they didn't, or same way that Bulls didn't get much for DeMar DeRozan, that could have happened for Randall. And Minnesota could have let Reed walk or, NAW. So both teams needed to do this. I think Knicks are better for it. I think we're a championship contender now. I don't know about the Wolves, but I don't think they're worse necessarily. But Towns also a big risk. So that's my analysis from the trade, but I'm stoked. I can't wait. Preseason starts today. And what are your reactions to the trade?
Dan?
Well, again, it's a win-win. I always love Erik's initial thoughts because Erik treats everything like he has to stay on the court for one more pickup game. So when Julius Randle, he's got to keep winner's court. His mentality is such a winner's court mentality. And so the initial, if the Knicks were to play Boston tomorrow, I would feel better with going to war with Julius Randle, knowing he's healthy, and Dante DiVincenzo. Now that's one game tomorrow. And I think that both of these teams, these were cap manipulations. These were analytical decisions, a lot of analytics playing into it for New York. One thing I heard this week that was interesting that I don't think I heard many other places was actually Dante DiVincenzo defensively had a very low rating for a player on a pretty defensive team. So in a lot of their 5-man lineups, he was the weak link. Analytically, again, you have to watch every possession with your eyes as well, but analytically, whether it was because he was guarding the star or he was out of position, that offensive focus and shot making that he did do on paper was outweighed by some defensive inefficiencies. Now, maybe that was because he was in ball screen situations with Hartenstein, and Hartenstein's a deep dropper. There's a lot that could be read into that. But the analytics guys won for New York, and I think they get closer to 55 to the 60 win mark with Karl-Anthony Towns, and less close to an injury-riddled 45 wins. And I think that's important for controlling the media narrative, keeping the belief in Tom Thibodeau, and building more offensive flow, which is going to be important in the playoffs if they are going to go outside of the second round. I'll flip to the Timberwolves. Again, the Timberwolves got tougher. They have now a point forward, which they didn't have before, which allows the corner shooting to probably improve because, again, a lot of the corner threes off of Conley pick and rolls could be guarded closer because Conley is easier to guard, so the drop guy can go back further. Not that he didn't make great plays and not that they didn't do stuff, but they did shoot a poor percentage from the three-point line from the corner. Not poor, but their shooters got better. Like DiVincenzo gives them better shooters. And Randall being involved in some Randall Gobert, Randall McDaniels, Randall Ant pick and roll situations where Randall is the ball handler is really, really going to allow them a lot of paint touches. And I don't think that's taken into consideration enough. And I think Nick Nurse is creative enough to do those types of basketball things. I do think, much like the 2022, 2023 Knicks, you're going to have some frustrating games as a Wolves fan with Randall and Edwards and low shooting wings, and you know, Gobert maybe being on a mental vacation for a day or two. Like, I think it's going to be more frustrating to be a Timberwolves fan, but they'll turn it on in the playoffs, and the West is going to be better. So they're ready. They're more ready for battles in the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, I definitely think they increased their toughness. I worry about their spacing with Randall, McDaniels, Gobert. I know that DiVincenzo, when he's out there, he's best shooter on the team. But we'll see how they mesh together. That said, they maybe have the best bench in the league. I mean, having Reed and DiVincenzo, those are two of the best bench players in the league.
Randall's had some spurts of shooting the ball really well from three, and he hasn't had anything to do for 6 months. So I'm guessing, as hard as the guy worked, he's going to be a better spacer, better floor spacer, a better shooter. Now, I have the same spacing concerns, but if they get into the playoffs and they run a lot of the sets that they ran and he's just in Towns' position, banging some threes and trailing into some threes, I could see him evolving into that role. If I had a torn shoulder, I wouldn't be looking to put my head down and drive into two guys as much as he usually does. I'd probably learn to float on the perimeter and extend my career for 3 years.
I like that. I think the questions, and then I'll pass it to Reuben, but the questions I have now for the Knicks are, do we start McBride or Hart? I kind of like, I know we can switch it up based on matchups or, Precious even, and go small with Cat, or go big. But I do like Deuce, trying to fulfill that Dante role, because then we have shooters and everyone on the floor can shoot. Whereas Hart,
who comes off the bench? Is that Hart?
Hart. Yeah. He still gets 30 minutes a game. He subs for Bridges and Anunoby, and when Anunoby's hurt, he'll start too. But I wonder if Deuce can really step in there. And then we got Campaign or Kolek, filling for Brunson. I do worry about when Brunson's off the floor, either injury or not, who's really creating for us. Randall was a offense onto himself. Cat has a lower usage rate. Bridges, it didn't really work in Brooklyn. So that offense just feels a little bit dicey, but people are high on this guy Kolek. Maybe he's our next Emmanuel Quickly or something, and he can create offense. So I worry about the bench. I do wonder if we should trade Mitch for Jordan Clarkson or, some sort of Trey Murphy or some sort of scorer that if Brunson's out, we can really just give this person the ball and they get a bucket. That's a question I have for us to consider. Anyways, I want to give Reuben some time too. Any reaction?
Well, wouldn't you trade Towns to become that guy? He had to become a second option this past year in Minnesota, or I guess the last 2-3 years. I don't know if he wants to become a third option on the Knicks. I think you're already risking a personality shift as you bring Karl-Anthony Towns into the fold. I think as long as Hart's the one playing more minutes, I don't think it matters whether McBride starts or comes off the bench. I don't think that he is offering the similar shooting punch that you had with Quickly or with Dante, despite he did have a couple good games in the playoffs. You didn't see it on a regular basis. I think the truth is that in the Tibbs offense, the bench doesn't matter as much because he's going to play your starters heavy minutes. If it were me, I would not trade Mitch. I think he offers what you're desperately going to need this year, which is some rebounding and shot blocking. Towns is an all right rebounder. He's not really a deterrent at the rim, or at least hasn't been in the NBA. He was in college. So maybe it's something he can bring back. I certainly hope so for the Knicks case, but if it were me, I'd keep Mitch. But I also would have kept Randall and Dante too. So, good thing I'm not Leon Rose, and Leon Rose is pulling some great strings. I think that Bridges trade was highway robbery. So let's see how it plays out. I think they were a 55-60 win team, whether they made this trade or not. So curious to see how it works out for them.
Another, just some off, kind of performance topics. Like I think, the spacing gets better for the Knicks, but also one thing that you have to take into consideration is there are a couple rule changes that are going to affect Brunson. As far as the offense initiating contact, as far as the jail dribbles and the initiation of contact as you leave your feet to get to the free throw line. So I think we're going to see teams guard him a little bit differently as well, and try to just not keep him out as the paint as much, as far as making sure they just contest everything, which sounds weird. But if he starts getting some fouls early in the season with all his lean in, theatrics, and I'm not saying he's not being fouled, and some of those are 50-50, but if that's a point of emphasis, guys like him and Dame are going to have to probably alter their game, and most likely they're going to shoot less free throws. So that makes the spacing with Towns even more important for him to have more room to operate. He operated great in small spaces last year, but now he'll have much larger spaces to get to his offensive weapons. Bridges, to me, since his peak in Phoenix, has kind of declined. In his mind, he was going to be an all-star. He had that opportunity a little bit last year. He didn't perform on a nightly basis, although he put up decent numbers for a number one guy. So for me, ultimately you say Mitch, and I think Mitch makes all the sense in the world because he's kind of in that brand year, and he's going to want to touch the ball and score as much as possible when he comes back. But I could see Bridges and OG also being potential trade pieces by February. One or the other, and it should just, mutual, this didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to, or I think that, my opportunity might be better somewhere else. And again, that stuff after 20 games, that is a priority for a player. It could be a priority for Josh Hart as well. I mean, at the end of the day, the Nova Knicks, the camaraderie, everybody's going to say the right stuff in training camp. But as people try to take away from your potential to make another $50 to $80 million, you have to look out for number one. So it's a lot easier to deviate from the plan. And again, Mitch would be number one. You got to trade the guy that's injured if he's hot and capitalize on the asset. But I think they have some outs to make sure that they get to the second round of the playoffs. And if you want to be Leon Rose and you want to, continue to double down, you have some outs without having to worry about what those guys think. You could just be like, great year we had together here. And, we're shipping you to Houston for Fred VanVleet and Amen Thompson.
Do you think that makes their team better?
I don't know.
Do you think that
makes them younger and tougher and gives them better guard play if Brunson was banged up and Tyler Kolek isn't any good? We won't know how that, if Tyler Kolek's killing and Deuce McBride is killing and Josh Hart shooting 47% from three, then it's Mitch all day long. But if something changes the backcourt and there's not, it's hot potato shoot, and they're in fifth place, at least they have options. I don't think that's going to happen. I would bet over 55 wins for sure. But I think that's the levels that these GMs now start to look at as training camps here. These are the starters. Great. Deuce, you're coming off the bench. Oh, okay. If things start to go wrong, what are our next set of moves?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm keeping OG. I'm keeping Bridges.
Me too, but you never know. But Dan, would you do Mitch for Trey Murphy or Jordan Clarkson? Like if the opportunity to get a score,
I just don't think you could have Cat. I mean, they had Hardenstein, they had Randall for a chunk of the season, they had Mitch for a chunk of the season. I don't think you can get rid of. I mean, what big guys going to him? I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns is a underwhelming rim protector and an underwhelming drop coverage with no switchability. Mitch at least gets out there and makes some things happen when he's playing and can lean on Joel Embiid. I think that if they need scoring, but you're basically by that move, you're basically committing to trying to score 135 points a game, which I'm cool with. But I don't think that you can't do that in the Eastern Conference Finals. So they would need to have stolen somebody or signed somebody that we're not thinking about off the free agent market to plug that hole at the same time.
I wouldn't be surprised if Precious has a big year, like over 10 points a game or something. Like
depending on Pollock and Precious Achiuwa for a championship.
Precious when he started, I think averaged like either 12 points a game or maybe 18 even. I don't know. Like he had a big second half of the season for us, and I'm just saying maybe he becomes a trade asset. Right now, I don't think he really is one, but if he has a good first half of the season, and
do you not think that your team has enough?
I want a bench score.
Want a bench score?
When I'm looking at Jordan Clarkson at Utah, and I'm like, what's he doing? But you're willing
to get rid of your best defender and rebounder
Precious.
And shot blocker? No, isn't it?
I'm saying maybe we get rid of Precious. But Knicks are good at raising the value of these journeymen.
Precious is going to bet.
Since when?
He's going to benefit from the better spacing as well. But I just think when they get to their second unit, it's going to be OG, Mikal Bridges go time. Like that's going to be their second unit offensive plan. So they're going. They're not going to worry about Clarkson. They're just be like, look, we're playing the subs, and Mikal Bridges is our number one option. And when we go to our second unit, he's shooting 3 out of 5 shots. That's how we keep him happy.
Yeah.
You know what I'd love to see on a very separate note, or on the opposite note of the trade? I'd love to see Randall be the point forward off the bench and Naz Reid take that starting spot and be the spacing and he was fantastic in the playoffs and last year, like almost in a similar vein to stepping up in the way that Harden did when he got traded after being sick.
But I think what Eric, you're basically saying like Precious Achiuwa could become Naz Reid in a lot of ways.
Sort of.
Like it's about opportunity. Do
you think he's set to become the next Naz Reid?
I mean, I just know Precious, they had a similar path up until this point. Both Dominic.
He was a great recruit too. Precious was a great recruit.
Both great high school players, both number one options on their college that played multiple positions, both had to learn some hard knocks after falling in the draft.
Yeah, I really like Precious. Yeah, I really like him. We had a great contract at $6 million. I mean, if we were saying last year that Isaiah Hartenstein next year in free agency would be offered $30 million a year, we would be saying, what do you smoke?
That's one good example. It doesn't make the Knicks great at developing players.
Josh Hart also, then got $18 million a year. Dante DiVincenzo had a career year. Miles McBride. Miles McBride shot 41% from 3 last year.
Limited.
I think that developing players, or I should say, I don't know if they're developing players, but people come to the Knicks and they have career years, or at least we've identified 4 people who've had career years. And I think
Marbury, Zach Randolph, David Lee was a good Knick.
We're good at also trading for, washed, previous stars, Tracy McGrady, Steve Francis. Yeah. But, this is a new Knicks front office and a new Knicks era. And, I think Precious Achiuwa, I don't know if he has a, 6 man of the year style year like Naz Reid. I'm not saying that's definite, but I'm saying he could have as big of a year as Isaiah Hartenstein had last year, where he becomes one of the best backup big men in the NBA.
I'm going to play Eric's part for a second here. What is 7-game series starts tomorrow. Everybody's healthy. Celtics and Knicks.
Blow them out of the water.
I like what's the question? The question is who wins.
I
the
mean,
question is,
do you feel good about it? Do you feel better about it now than you did last week at this time? Or whenever right before the trade, sorry.
It's tough. I don't know. Randall gave a toughness, and he was our option when Brunson was out, and he could really score. And there's that camaraderie, and DiVincenzo has a toughness, and we had better depth before this trade. Now we have, I think, the best 5 in the NBA, with Boston. So I think I feel a little bit better on it. But honestly, I haven't seen Karl-Anthony Towns play a ton in terms of, a lot of people seem to have problems with him in the way that we have problems with Randall. I've seen the problems with Randall. I haven't firsthand seen the problems with Towns in terms of his lack of toughness or his, foul trouble or his gaps or the things that people talk about. So I don't feel qualified to really answer. Reuben, you're muted. You're trying to jump in. Go for it.
Foul trouble is so bad.
So, but I do worry about who besides Brunson can shot create, or like what does our offense look like when Brunson is off the floor? And we saw this in the Miami series 2 years ago. Brunson was off the floor for like 8 minutes a game, and those 8 minutes lost us the game. Like they killed us when Brunson was off the floor because Barrett or Randall or whoever was creating then just like couldn't do it. I think it was Barrett and quickly. So maybe I'm somewhere near the same, or maybe a little bit better, a little bit worse. I haven't made up my mind yet. It seems, Dan, you're a little bit worse than, or that's kind of how you led the call of like, if we started tomorrow, Randall would be kind of a better fit given camaraderie, toughness, etc. Where's your head at?
I guess my comment for the beginning of the show was based more on last season's teams again. So again, I don't think that obviously the Celtics changed nothing. Maybe they have a couple more sets. I like the fact. I think Bridges can be the guy that creates his own shot. I watched enough of the Nets game. Like the dude the ball finds him and he finds mismatches and he creates and he draws fouls. And it's like he looks like he's getting tased sometimes whenever he's making his moves. But I do like the potential for Thibodeau to run a lot of the stuff that he used to run for Randall, running that to OG and Bridges, running the same types of isolations and sets and double gap clear outs for those guys. I agree with Reuben. Towns' defensive analytics are bad, but look, Anthony Edwards played no defense. Mike Conley is 5'8". He had young players on his team. Gobert gives you 100% every fourth game. Like you can make some excuses for the guy. That he was on an island a lot. And again, he doesn't want to go to New York and get embarrassed. But I do love Karl-Anthony Towns guarding Porzingis and neutralizing that factor in Boston's stretch theories of creating more threes. And I'm sure that was a big part of what New York kind of thought about it in some of it. But I think we're going to sit here and talk about it, and I don't think either team's going to be healthy in the playoffs next year. And we'll be talking about matchups that we never thought we'd be talking about. But my final conclusion is they're closer to 60 wins, and they won't get beat the way that Boston beat them in games last year.
Right. And it feels like Boston kind of got lucky to not have much injury problems. I know they had KP out, but their bench is not deep. If they have in the playoffs, if they have Tatum out or Brown out, who you starting? Sam Hauser?
But if your best player's out, you're not going to win. You could say that for every single team in the NBA. There's no team if their best player's out. Even the Pacers, the deepest team. When Halliburton went out, it was over.
Or Timberwolves, like some teams.
Edwards would go out, it'd be over.
There's
no team that can win the chip if you lose your best player.
Well, some teams have more of a chance of competing than others, and depth does matter. And I worry about the Knicks right now if Brunson's out or if OG's out. Like Hart's playing 48 minutes, and we did have some key injuries in the last playoff run. We didn't have a deep enough team. Basically, I think we're doing a better job right now thinking about 8 through 15, a little bit, like, campaign. Hey, that guy could play a little bit. Shamit, I don't know. Yeah, he did a good playoff run. Like Shamit, does he still have something in the tank? We got these rookies. Maybe they could do something. I'm glad we got Precious. We got this guy from the Magic. What's the name? Chuka Omudi or something?
Oh, Kiki. I thought you just released him.
But then we picked him up again.
Okay.
I think we're thinking about, better than last year, we had Jacob Toppin, Dwayne. We had like 5 guys who,
but none of those guys ever saw the court.
Exactly. We couldn't put them on the court. Basically,
most of the guys you're talking about, you can't put on the court.
They'd have roster spots with other teams.
You should keep with your argument, Eric. Look, the Knicks did develop stuff. People can say what they want to say about Tom Thibodeau, but look, the guys developed players at three different locations. So, somebody's going to get better and outkick what we're talking about and step up and do things.
I hope it's Kolek.
You're going to get better as a second unit player just guarding those guys every day in practice. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers here right now, so I'm watching practice, and you can just these second string and third string guys trying to keep up with the intensity. They're trying, they're improving, but they feel like they're getting worse. And then one day that you get slid into the lineup and you're like, oh, this is pretty easy. That's how the NBA works so much differently than college now.
I want to, if you guys are open to it, I want to talk about the Eastern Conference and share our basically predictions for who makes the playoffs and at what seed. Maybe we could quibble on the margins, and if you guys have edits before the season, we could come back and say them. But I'll do my top 8. It's basically, I got Boston first, I got Knicks second, I got Sixers third, I got Cavs fourth, I got Magic 5th, I got Bucks 6th, I got Pacers 7th, and I have Heat 8th. There's a possibility the Heat actually could slide out of that, and maybe there's a surprise team in there. I don't know who that would be.
Did you say the Magic or no?
Yeah,
I did, either Magic or... So Celtics first, Knicks second, Sixers third, Cavs 4th, Magic 5th, Bucks 6th. I know it's low for the Bucks, but Pacers 7th and Heat 8th, with maybe, Atlanta 9th and I don't know, Charlotte 10th. The East is so bad after the top 8 teams. I'm curious if any reactions to that or how you would think about your own top 8 relative to that. I know I'm putting you guys on the spot here a little bit, but
say I'm pretty similar to that. It's going to be
Bucks
some.
6?
Yeah, I'd probably put the Bucks up to 4 or 3. I think the Knicks, Bucks, Sixers to me are all similarly leveled teams after the Celtics, so they'll be 1 through 4, and Cavs are just outside it. It'd be funny. If it was your way, Cavs Magic would be a rematch first round. That went 7 last year. I'm excited to see Banchero play. I think he's going to take another jump. He's a monster, fantastic player. I think the East is pretty clear cut. I don't think the Hawks or the Bulls or any of those other teams are really in contention. Although I'm hoping for a redemption season from Lonzo Ball. Love him.
I would love Ben Simmons to have a redemption season.
He just might. Keep hoping.
Yeah. Did Bucks get better this year or this offseason? Magic are getting better just by being younger and developing, and maybe the Cavs too, but are the Bucks, Lillard's older, Middleton's older, they got Trent, okay, but how's their depth? Lopez older, what are we doing?
Yeah, Trent and DeLon Wright. All those guys are really good players who were just hurt last year. All 4 of the ones you mentioned. So maybe you're just hoping for some health and continuity. And Giannis being healthy. And as the, top 3, top 5 player in the league, you're going to be good. You're going to win games. I'm kind of banking it on health and just on a full season under Doc, even though I don't think he's the guy.
You talked about the Bucks, you talked about, you can't win without your best player. Chris Middleton is the Bucks' best basketball player. Giannis is the most dominant player, but when it comes to how to play basketball the right way offensively and making things happen and creating for others and passing the ball and sharing the ball and making high IQ decisions as well as making a high percentage of his shots, Middleton is their best basketball player. I
agree, but that's not basketball. That's not all basketball is.
I'm not saying Dame is not more dominant as well, but I think getting your best basketball player back and an extra year of Doc and a chip on your shoulder, again, I think the Bucks probably up until they either have an injury or the All-Star break will probably actually be a top 3 team. I think their bench got better. They're athletic across the board. Their second unit has another year of experience with all those young kids with something to prove in a year where they need to get paid. And again, whether you think Doc's a great X and O guy or you think he's a total con man, he does motivate players in spurts. So I would expect, some spurt ability from the Bucks. I'm a little higher on Orlando. I think they got better. Their second unit got better. There'll be a tough
KCP
out every night of the week. And again, you have the Heat are just not going to go away. Spoelstra's probably the guy capable of stealing 10 more wins if he can get guys to play together. Jimmy's in a brand year where he's got to play himself out of kind of the shadows a little bit. So I think those types of motivating factors always intrigue me a little more. Like you guys, I don't love Boston's second unit. They're not ready for 82 physical competitive games. I don't love the Knicks second unit. Early in the season, they're going to be figuring some things out. So I could see those guys maybe in that 3, 4, 5 range, just, with one injury or like I said, just these other teams just playing out of their mind with the way the schedules fall. And, again, I'm rooting for the Bulls to get that play in eighth spot a little bit too. I'm always a Billy Donovan fan. I was a fan of the Josh Giddey. I like kind of their congruency and alignment of how they signed guys who are now motivated. And if they get even a 75% Lonzo Ball is still a backup guard that's pretty damn good if he does come back. I think
he's coming back.
I'm higher on the Heat in the Bucks and probably lower on Philly, Boston, and New York when we talk about the completion of 82 games. I think New York will be on fire to start the year and it's just going to be fun to watch. And they've just planned out the first 40 games to be awesome. And then reality will start kicking in and Thibodeau's, 2-a-days and no water breaks will probably cut their legs out a little bit in March and early April before their playoff run. Can we just jump to the playoffs like right now? Like skip the 82 games?
Let's do it. Yeah, Eric, don't let Tibbs play your team into the ground. You got to play these bench guys you're talking about, even if it means a couple more L's.
Here's my one I'll throw out. I'm picking the Milwaukee Bucks for the in-season tournament winner.
Okay.
Eric, who are you picking?
Pacers won it last year. Who am I picking?
I got my pick.
I'll pick the Sixers. Just kind of randomly just came to me. How about you, Reuben?
They're going to be exciting. I'm excited to watch the Sixers. I'm picking the Grizzlies.
Ooh.
Oh, right. The West is in it too.
Okay.
Let's go to the West actually, because I just wrote out this one is more controversial and I reserve the right to change my mind if I can be persuaded.
We all do.
All right. So here's my top 8 so far. Thunder 1, T-Wolves 2, which is a controversial game. What is it? Mavs 3, Suns 4, Nuggets 5, Kings 6, Pelicans 7, Rockets 8, which would mean that teams not mentioned are Lakers, Spurs, Grizzlies, Clippers, Jazz, Blazers.
Kings? You said Kings?
And Warriors are not in. Kings are in my book. Reuben and I disagreed on 3 or 4 teams last night. Any reactions to that, Reuben?
You're entitled to your opinion. You're a smart
but
guy.
what's yours?
It's not yours. I have the Thunder 1, the Wolves 2, the Nuggets 3, the Grizzlies 4, the Rockets 5, the Lakers 6,
You put the
the
Spurs in? Or no?
Suns 7, and the Spurs 8.
So you have the Mavs out?
Doesn't matter.
Wow. Western Conference champions out.
Yeah.
Just because you think they'll be too streaky?
I think that they compromised a lot of like what made them go. I just think I hope that I don't think you can guarantee another season of health from both Clay, Kyrie, and Luka. And there's going to be still a lot of pressure on Luka to like create. And Clay's going to do some great things. He's going to shoot well. He can't really guard. They don't really have anyone to guard the other team's best players. So I just think they're going to be a little bit too defensively compromised to play night to night. If one of those guys is out, I think, you're back to playing 2-on-5 and you sacrifice a lot of depth. I really liked Derrick Jones Jr. Like Josh Green was a good player. You still got Exum. I like Exum. I think he's pretty good. But yeah, someone kind of had to be out, and I just think all those other teams are really good. And
They should start Quentin
I
Grimes.
think they're good.
Quentin Grimes
Hopefully
can go.
Quentin Grimes can play. Yeah. He didn't really play much on the
Smart
Pistons
player.
even after that trade, and he didn't get a lot of time for the Knicks, although he played pretty well when he did.
Dan, what teams are in or out for you?
Well, based on what you guys are saying, I think I'm higher on the Lakers. I'm higher on the Suns. I'm higher on the Clippers. Higher on the Grizzlies. Lower on Oklahoma City. Lower on Denver. Lower on... I don't want to say that I'm lower on the Kings because I really, really like the DeRozan thing, but I think it's going to take a while for them to figure it out. Like I could see them getting an 8 seed and then stealing something in the first round of the playoffs. But I think the Grizzlies, I just think, again, when you have a top 5 player, in my opinion, that comes back healthy, and you also just get more games played from somebody that was a Western Conference finalist, just whatever it was a couple years ago, like they're going to be okay. And they're going to be, they're going to be very difficult to guard. And, they're a very good defensive team. Oklahoma City, I just think, again, now you get into the phase where you have competing egos, and you have a mark on your back every night. Whereas probably for the first 40 games of the last year, they didn't really have an X on their back every night. Now everybody's going to be up for Oklahoma City every single night. And I think they're going to have some warring factions internally as guys chase individual stuff, and as they try to figure out, lineups and hierarchy. I'm just not a fan of these teams that don't have hierarchy. And again, I think that the Lakers have hierarchy, the Clippers have hierarchy, the Suns have hierarchy, the Mavs have hierarchy. And ultimately, it's not that that I think that they're going to win more games because of the hierarchy. I just think they're going to lose less games when the hierarchy comes into an existence, because when one of those guys sits out, everybody else is so excited. The Rockets are the intriguing conversation because they could be as high as 2, in my opinion. They could be as high as 2. But they could also be the team that has, an internal fist fight and 3 guys missed 20 games because of injuries because of the fist fight.
I'm all in on Reed Sheppard.
Seems like he's done pretty well in the beginning of training camp as well.
Yeah, I just love his style of play. I think it's beautiful to watch. It's super heady basketball player.
He would be great to dress up and show up at the SF Hoops League.
And just chill everyone.
With goggles and a mullet wig, and everyone's like, who's this guy? And you could be like, oh, he just signed.
Seriously.
Yeah, the West is wide open in that way. Me and
There's
Reuben
going to
have
be like 12 teams in contention.
Yeah, this is really good for TV ratings for these 10 p.m. games all year. Like Adam Silver's just so happy right now.
is basically every team in contention except for the Blazers in the West. Who's not in contention?
Maybe the Jazz. Do you think they're in contention?
Oh yeah, okay. Blazers and the Jazz. But Dan maybe seems to think Clippers are in contention.
Yeah, they're going to be in contention. They got Harden and Kawhi. Most guys are playing. They're in contention. They got defense.
And they stay having, I mean, I would see a breakout year for Zubac now. Terrence Mann, I think that they have the most pieces too if they need to make a move. If they need to make a couple major moves, they can make a couple major. They could acquire Kevin Durant. They could acquire Kyrie. They could acquire Darius Garland. Like they could make a move to really change how things go into the second part of the year. And I think some teams with the cap restrictions are not going to be able to do that quite as easily. They're not going to have the flexibility. And they got the new arena, so they might just put like lasers onto the other team's ball and win like 90% of their games. I wouldn't put it past Steve Ballmer.
The real question here is who's out and who doesn't make it. And I said the Lakers, Spurs, and Grizzlies, even though I like, all of those teams. I think Spurs maybe just 1 year away. Lakers, I feel like I don't know if they have enough in the tank.
What about the JJ Redick effect?
I love JJ Redick. It's just I can't see Kings not making it. Pelicans are so deep. I can't see them not making it. And I can't see the Mavs not making it. So, and, Nuggets, I think are going to, I think they got worse, but are they out of the playoffs worse? I don't see it. So, and I love the Rockets too. I think one place where we have ongoing disagreement is the Dylan Brooks effect. I think Dylan Brooks is just a winner. And so I think Grizzlies losing.
I don't even think he's going to play that much.
I think it was tough I think he'll play at least 25 minutes a night. I think it was tough for the Grizzlies.
Maybe.
And so now they got Marcus Smart. So, he's a winner too, right? Presumably. So Grizzlies could, see it, but it's just like, are Pelicans not going to make it? Are Kings not going to make it? Yeah. I think Mavs is definitely making it. So
who's the first team this year to fire their coach?
It's a good question.
I mean, it could be Chauncey. Not that
could be Chauncey.
I'm rooting.
It could be. It could be.
Who thinks they're going to win and is not going to win?
Could be Billy Donovan. That'd be an easy out for the Bulls if things are off to a rocky start.
Could it be Quinn Snyder? Probably not, right?
We didn't know the Hawks have not come up on anybody's radar today. So that means they're definitely going to be the 6th seed.
Yeah, it would be surprising if Hawks shocked just all of a sudden Trae Young had a...
Can it be Willie Green if they're not performing?
Yeah, Willie Green would probably be... I would be interested to see what the Vegas odds are saying right now.
Yeah.
I wonder if Doc Rivers, if the Bucks come out to a slow start, maybe
there's not that many true. I mean, so many teams have new coaches now that it's hard. I mean, could Spoelstra, could this be the year if they got off to a bad start? If things just, if everything just, if they were 5-16?
No chance. I just don't think they would do it. He's built up enough equity. That he's really good.
Or Steve Kerr. We haven't talked about the Warriors, but we just...
No way.
We're just assuming that
those would be more like I need to spend time with my family. I can look at issues,
right, of course.
Type of.
But I guess do we all agree that Warriors just not making the playoffs this year? Like there's some teams that are kind of win now because they don't have a lot of picks in the future or because they're getting old. It's Warriors, Clippers, and Lakers. I said they're all out of the playoffs, but they're all win now. I would love to see Lakers in the playoffs. I would love to see.
I have a serious question. If the Warriors get off the same way, let's say the Warriors are 5-16, what happens to their fan base? Do people just stop going completely, or are they in the kind of the Knicks Boston that no matter what they'll always draw a crowd? Like, have they reached that status of historical prominence in your guys' area where it won't matter? Like the fans will still support them and go to the grave with them?
I think so, but I'm not 100% sure. I also wonder if they will demand trade, if the Warriors will stand for this level of record and will sort of need to move, a Wiggins or even Draymond, I don't know, or need to do something. And something that's more of a win now thing than a blow it up thing. And And I think they should have done something. Game on them a little bit. Like it just wasn't enough of an offseason for the Warriors. Like you have Steph Curry, you need to make the playoffs. What could they have done? I'm not sure. Maybe they could have gotten Paul George or Karl-Anthony Towns or, yeah.
No, but it's,
like
it's just, it's so interesting to think that today is October 4th and on December 4th, like our 60 days from now, like our conversation is going to be wild. Like so much will have at least started to creep through the surface for them. And I don't know if you guys saw, like, the NBA going into training camp. I think they said, I forget how many total raw guys, like there was 92 guys on the injured list amongst NBA players. Now I know there's like 480 roster spots and everybody probably brings an additional 5 or 6 guys to camp. So, you're looking at an additional, 80 guys there. So let's say there's 600 players. But that means 1 in 6 players is starting the year on the injured list, unable to participate in live scrimmages. So if that's a precursor to where injuries are going to be this year, it's really good for Vegas, and it's really good for the Western Conference showdowns that are going to happen nightly in the parity that Adam Sandler is ultimately looking for. But you have the post Adam Silver. Shoot, Adam Sandler. Sorry. Getting excited about Happy Gilmore too. That is not how I feel about you, Adam. That is not how I feel. Please do not. But Adam, I mean, you want parity, and his dream was for us to have this discussion about the Western Conference. But as bad as it is, like 10 years ago, people didn't worry about star player injuries like they do now. Like we're just used to it.
Yeah.
And that's crazy.
But Dan, I would put you in the spot if you're open to it and name at least one team that you think is out in the West, as in, might not make the playoffs, given that there are like 12 or 13 good teams, trying to get.
I said this last time, and you guys both raised your eyebrows a little bit, but I'm just down on San Antonio. Like, wow. I get it, but Victor's coming off the Olympics. Chris Paul. Is he? I mean, he can't compete for 40 minutes a night. Everybody else's agenda, Pop's voice. Like, I do want to be wrong. But if 7-game series today, I would take Portland over San Antonio.
Wow.
I would take Utah over San Antonio. And not because they're not better coached and that they don't have tons of upside. I just see this as the regression year, not just for Victor, but for their camaraderie. Same thing, like their egos and the things that the things that individual needs that need to be met. Pop's not the guy to meet that. Just like I said, Ime Udoka is not the guy to meet the needs of everybody in Houston. So Houston's going to have some troubles in the locker room, and they're going to have some troubles and need to trade some guys because there's going to be some unhappy guys there. So
what's the over? Eric, we said we got to take a bet. I know we're coming close to the end here. I would bet the over on the Spurs.
Well, what's 35 wins, 40 wins? What do you say? What do you say? Over 40?
You got your tweet. Can you pull it up?
No, look it up. Yeah.
Well, Reuben, I want to bet you Mavs make the playoffs.
As of 36.5.
Ooh, under all day. It's almost winning half their games. Who are they going to beat on a nightly basis?
I think they can beat any team.
Really?
Okay. Well, we could mark that as a bet for the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm
all the way on the other side on them.
I do think. Well, how many wins do you think they'll get, Reuben?
I think they're roster 40, 43, 44, somewhere in that range.
You think that makes the playoffs, dude? I don't think in the West.
I think it's like 7, 8 seed, dude. It's going to be 11, 12 teams, 13 teams just beating the crap out of each other all season.
It's Warriors didn't make the playoffs last year, and they had 46 wins.
Yeah, I think it's 3 less. Okay,
right. Yeah.
Maybe 9th seed and they get in.
Here's one question I have for you. If you're the Pelicans, do you just start Zion at center, or they have this Yves Missy guy? I don't even know who he is. Like, what do you do given you have this glut of wings? They have Herb Jones and Trey Murphy on the bench. I mean, those are incredible, pieces. what do you do if you're the Pelicans? Dan, what say you?
I mean, they look, I think you have two, the fork in the road is, are they shooting the ball well? So if Zion plays center and he's a mismatch point forward guy and they're shooting the ball well, then they get back, then they set their defense, then they're long and athletic and pesky on the ball, and they win a lot of games. If Zion's trying to get to the free throw line and guys are not shooting the ball and making open shots at a high clip, meaning, 38 to 41% across all their wings, then they need to move some of those wings and find a more traditional center from somebody else's roster.
Yeah. Makes sense. We have 1 minute, Reuben, any last reactions you want to leave us with?
I think you do play as your point center. And I think they'd be most exciting that way, and they've got shooters all over now with Trey Murphy coming into the starting lineup after trading Valanciunas. I think that'd be a cool offense to see, but yeah, it comes down to can they get enough stops. Last thoughts. I'm really excited for the Knicks. I think you guys, this is in my lifetime their best shot at their championship, even despite the trade. So I'm excited for you.
We did a seasoned roster spot, or who's going to make the playoffs. In the next episode before the season, we'll have to do our predictions of who's going to win in the playoffs. But we'll leave that for next episode. Thank you both, gentlemen. Until next time.
See you.
Pleasure, guys.